Today we're settling the battle of spies. Who is better, James Bond or Sherlock Holmes?
Almost everything. Production.
Hello everyone, and today this happened.
There they are out there. That's Grandma and Grandpa. Grandpa's asleep.
So James Bond and Sherlock Holmes are often regarded as two of literature's greatest characters. And yes, James Bond is a literature character. I don't know why I always have to tell people this. The novels were really very well received. They're considered classics in their own right. You all need to read a book. But anyways, I'm going to be waging this war according to their intelligence, their athletic ability, and their genuine literature character. And I feel I'm a pretty good judge of this. I have read all of the Sherlock Holmes books, I've read all of the James Bond books, except the Living Daylights, and I've watched all the James Bond films, except the Living Daylights. So, let's have a battle of the spies. Who's better, the Baker Street detective or MI6 top agent? So, it might seem obvious here who the winner of this should be. Anyone who's ever watched a James Bond film knows that he's just mowing down bad guys, pretty much like an episode of the Looney Tunes. But I would like to make a point here for Sherlock Holmes. James Bond is always drinking, and he's always smoking, and according to the books he doesn't do them to excess, but it certainly seems like that when you're reading. Meanwhile, Sherlock Holmes is shown throughout the short stories to have excellent athletic prowess. He can bend irons with his hand, he always wins fights. But I do have to give it to James Bond. He seems to know more fighting skills, and he's just fought so many bad guys. It would just be hard to believe that Sherlock Holmes could beat him. But I will say, it's much closer than you might first think. So one thing I've always hated about videos where Superman and Batman get into a fight is the assumption that Batman is the smart one and Superman is the dumb one. And that's just not true. If you look at the comics, Superman is pretty smart. I mean, I don't know if he's as smart as Batman, but, he's not an idiot. And that's kind of how I feel with James Bond and Sherlock Holmes. And, it's easy to think of Sherlock Holmes as the smart one, but James Bond is no dummy either. Throughout the books, he's shown to have an understanding of art, of literature, of science. He knows how to be a sleuth. But I will have to give it to Sherlock Holmes again, because there really isn't any question about this, but just keep in mind, James Bond's not dumb. So when I first pondered this question, the answer seemed obvious to me. Sherlock Holmes is the best literature character. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized that there are two different versions of James Bond. The one you see in the films, and the one you see in the books. And don't get me wrong, the one you see in the films is fine. But the one you see in the books is incredibly intricate. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the best way I can say it is that it's like if the guy you know in the office that's kind of boring and a little weird was to suddenly go on a shooting rampage. That's the best way I could describe it, and that's not really a very good description. But there is a clear winner here. Sherlock Holmes has had books written about his character. He's an asexual, he's incredibly intelligent, and there isn't really any competition. But I will say, look at the character in the books. He isn't exactly what you would think he was. So, I will admit that this one was kind of obvious to me. Sherlock Holmes is the obvious winner. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is one of my favorite characters of all time in the top 3. And I do love James Bond, but it's just not a fair battle. It's like battling against me. You know who's going to win. And Sherlock Holmes was the clear winner, but I don't know, maybe you all disagree with me. Maybe you all think, James Bond deserved to win. Let me know in the comments. But I will say this, it came down to something a little bit surprising. It wasn't about the stunts, it's not about who accomplished more. It came down to the individual themselves. It came down to something that we all connect with, the mind. And Sherlock Holmes does a much better job connecting with that. So that was really the real reason why I chose him as the winner. And I think that says something a bit special. Hello everyone, I'm Sherlock Holmes, making my obligatory appearance on this episode. Because, I've been in past episodes, and it only makes sense that I'm in this one, the James Bond versus Sherlock Holmes one. Might as well be in it. Please subscribe. If you want to, I don't really give a damn what you do. I wonder if a platypus could live in the ocean. Because, a platypus is a duck beaver. And I figure if it really wanted to, it could probably live in the ocean. A platypus could do anything. Just jumping around in the ocean. I'm sorry, I'm on meth right now. I don't really know what's going on, to be totally honest. I'm just going to leave now. Don't do meth, kids.